Like you, I can't stop thinking about Trump, and I'm furious, and I can't stop. Been doing this for years, and constantly try to progress in my thinking, and I ultimately felt um, that we can't blame Trump. We have to blame ourselves. The fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves. And I think we got to rethink how we think about leadership, and particularly celebrity. Now, a lot of this stuff comes from something I wrote recently. It's on Apple Books if you want to look it up. It's for free. Vonnegut, Steinmetz, and Corporatism. And it has to do with the origins of corporatism, which is a political thing. It's a jargon word. There's lots of details. But let me cut to the chase. We are, in leaders, we project ourselves. And a lot of stuff that the leader does, we can't excuse for ourselves. We couldn't do for ourselves. So we invest this all into one person. But this type of vicarious life is also familiar to us and everywhere in the world. This has nothing. This goes beyond democracy. It goes beyond right and left wing, beyond republicanism. It's not that. That's not the issue I'm trying to focus on. I'm trying to focus on how it is that we have leaders, and leaders frequently wind up not just like Trump, but we've been here before. We've had really, really good leaders and really, really bad leaders. Almost all of them have turned out to be human beings with good and evil invested in them as they are with us. But we don't tolerate them. We think differently because the leader gets to be this distilled version of humanity where they're super people, they're superhuman. So, the typical one is this Hitler thing, but he wasn't the first, and we've got plenty of people in history that have, they're up to their hips and dead people, and they've slayed people, and Vlad the Impaler and so forth. But they're, wow, Mussolini, oh boy, Napoleon, they're Caesar. These are these great, these heroes, villains, but heroes. But we fictionalize, we make a religion out of this stuff. We get very weird. But as with ancient traditions, what is in the part is also in the whole. What is microcosm is also macrocosm. So what we have in our own hearts is invested in this one person who represents collectively the body politic. That's the corporatism part, corpore, which comes from body. We are all limited by our individual bodies and our limited individual experience of the world. We are our own universes inside our own heads. We can't help it because we're flesh and blood and we're locked inside of individual bodies. We're never going to be the same as any other person because we're all unique. However, societally, we come together in these groups. Now, none of these vicious, horrible outcomes came out of nowhere, and it's not entirely because there's one guy who's a magician who hypnotizes great crowds of people. They come to power with collaboration. They come to power maybe not with the legitimate majority of the democratic community and so forth, but they have crowds that they gather around them, and for one reason or another, they have other people that enable them to have disproportionate power. Whether it's, we don't not talk about elections, even before the invention of elections, you still had to have some group consensus in order for one individual leader to have power. And frequently, if they knew the ropes about knocking people over the head and they didn't mind murdering a lot, they got away with people that did mind murdering, and the ones that did mind murdering would go along with it, and they would be submissive and so forth. So we have World War II. Wow, glad we avoided those horrible Hitler and Mussolini's, because over here we're free, and that horrible Nazi notion that the Germans are one race that rules the world, and only one race really has the idea. Where did they get that idea? Shockingly, maybe like the Chinese Asians, they don't let in any ethnic minorities. They don't let in scummy Europeans like Italians and Jews, which my father came over in 1935. They didn't like a lot of Italians and Jews in 1935. He had to pull a lot of stuff to get over here in 1935. But, Lady Liberty, come on, wretched refuse, come on, wretched refuse of your shores, teeming shores, come on over here. So we're a little confused about that concept, and we go back and forth. But that's coming out of us. That's coming out of human beings. So Trump has been brought to us as a type of TV celebrity. No kidding. Nowhere in human history has one individual had the capacity to be as famous as our celebrities and political celebrities, and we see this in show business. And there's a story. David Carradine was in Kung Fu in the 1970s. Hugely popular show. Why? Well, it was around Vietnam War era, and here's this wisdom of the East, and it's a little love-hate thing, we're going to beat up on you, but, come on over here and be immigrants and be just outstanding citizens and brilliant students and so forth. But, that's after we bomb you with napalm and so forth, and blow up Tokyo and all this wonderful sort of history, human history. But Carradine's in his brother, Keith Carradine, I guess, is in the steppes of Siberia somewhere. He comes to this yurt, and he opens it. It's the end of the world. He comes into the yurt. He goes in the yurt, and he's got to open fire and so forth. And a poster of David Carradine as Kung Fu up on the wall of the skin tent that they're living in. Caesar, Jesus Christ, Napoleon, none of these people, they were painted, you could recognize their image. But in none of these cases, only it's in the 20th century in movies, could someone get on a plane, and there's a passage in one of Dick Cavett's books, is you get in a plane, go anywhere in the United States, in the world. Get off the plane, go down any street, knock on a door. Oh, look, it's so-and-so. It's this star. And you could be a hated star. You could be a heel. Whatever. I guarantee you, people that would spit on the grave of Trump, if Trump came to their door and knocked on their door, you're going to get some people saying, how can you do it? Most of them, whoa, look who came to see me. It's a celebrity. And before Trump was anywhere in politics, he'd go to the work sites, and they'd have to leave after 10 minutes, because the citizens, regular people off the street in Manhattan, as cynical and as celebrity drenched as Manhattan, they would form a crowd that would be uncontrollable, and the local police and the local security couldn't handle the crowds. They do this with other celebrities, with any female celebrity. You have real danger, because the men go crazy just to see a sexy star walk down their street, because we have become slaves to this notion that there's one person can fulfill all of our crazy fantasies about ourselves. So we got to think a little bit about what we expect of our leaders. We got to think a little bit that if you have a great man, John F. Kennedy, well, he, is sexually, and that negates everything that he did. Martin Luther King negates everything he had. How did he do his dissertation? The women and fidelity to the wife and stuff. You don't get guys with courage like that. Those guys gave their lives literally. They were slaughtered on the street. That's, when Trump says he can shoot somebody. Well, we got a lot of shooting that I remember during my teens in the 60s. And it's heartbreaking. Robert F. Kennedy, you can say what you want. They're human beings. Let's not expect too much out of our leaders. Let's be realistic about it. That's all I have to say.